Thank you again for coming to Unspam. I love you all so much. So we talked about us being 10 years old and 100,000. We reviewed a lot of emails. You're like, why do you do this to yourself? Why? Why would you just go through all these submissions and look through all of them? To give you a little background, when Matthew Smith kind of launched the domain, it was really coming down to brand is a big part of what we all experience every day. And our inbox is almost the best place to get that brand put into somebody's daily life. And yet it's one of the last things that our CEO thinks about, our CFO thinks about, customer strategy. I lived this world. I started off in email in 2009. Don't do the math. It was really hard to actually get a program up and running and have people focus on email when they're trying to focus on SEO or SEM or social media. And time again, I was able to come back and be like, but look, we're in their inbox every day. We are not competing necessarily with the Facebook feed algorithm or the ranking feed of Google. Like, they give us their information, they want to hear from us. It's often more than any other medium that somebody will touch your brand through the inbox. But generally, like I said earlier, we had some just take out your eyeball kind of emails back in 2009 to 2014 when I was really gung-ho in collecting emails. It just made me do this. I was just really kind of sad. So first off, what is brand? And if you want to talk just ad nauseum about brand, Matthew Smith, he's wearing a white hoodie. He will talk to you for hours on this. And I get a lot of notes. I've worked with him for the last 10 years and kind of started to develop what that is. It's often seen, it's heard, and sometimes it makes you feel something, but it's not a logo, right? I don't know if you're with a brand, like, you know what we should do? Like, you get a new CMO and he's like, what people need is we need a new logo. And you're like, why? Like, what is that going to do? I don't know. Did you see what Uber did? They went to this weird square thing and then they went back, and then a logo is not going to change how people feel about your brand. It could if you had a really shitty logo, but it's just part of a brand. So let's take IKEA, for example. This is, maybe you guys know about this nice brand. Have you ever been to an IKEA store before or purchased from IKEA? They have blues, they have yellows. That's about it, and they have text. But when you go to their store, you really get attacked by their blue and their yellow. Their team even wears cool t-shirts that say, Hej. Their catalog, if you've seen the catalog, you'll see that they have this manicured set. You've walked through probably their showroom, and you just know when you see that, it's like, oh yeah, that's probably IKEA. And when they do things like this, even though this is iconic Simpsons starter intro, they have these names next to prices, and you're like, oh wait, that's IKEA. The brand is still extended, even though really you have the logo up there. But even if you took the logo out in the top right, you might think that's still IKEA because they've done it so well for so long. Again, through their emails, you experience this every day. That this feels a little less like their brand than anything else. Who here is just like, I've got to build something. This is going to be the best 5 minutes of my life. And then you're like, no, this is going to be like the best 30 minutes of my life. And then you're like, nope, it's the best 55 hours of my life. Actually, this is the Schrodinger's cat. If you didn't know, this is why this guy is confused, because he's like, oh, I actually figured it out. If you put a cat and toxic into a box, I figured out what Schrodinger's cat means. If you know what Schrodinger's cat is, it's a quantum physics thing, and you should go look it up. It's kind of sad. So that's very awkward, and I'm sorry. But all these expressions are brand, and they're made and they are designed by an individual. Again, what is design? So if you see it, most likely somebody's crafted it, a person has made it, they designed it for you. This is anything you pretty much hold. These are the chairs you're looking at. This is the thing I'm holding in my hand, which we call a clicker, and I don't even know what the real term of this is, but someone designed it. So you're like, well, isn't design subjective? I could design, and you probably hate that design. So a little just example here, and we're doing this because I am talking about design trends, and so I feel like we need to just get to a base level of what design means, and then we can go into the trends. So you don't need to close your eyes, but if you imagine a car in your brain, just could be your car, could be your dream car. Okay, you're thinking of the car. You might be thinking of this nifty, sweet Norwegian, German brand. You might be thinking about that. You might be thinking about this Volvo. Yeah, here we go. This is a little bit better. This is all for this guy right here. You don't know. You might be thinking about this, or you might think about a classic car, right? So generally what you're probably thinking of is a body with some wheels that takes you somewhere. This is the concept, right? You're like, well, didn't we just look at the design as subjective, right? It could be any of those things. But did any of you think about this? I mean, somebody designed this, but is this something you thought of when you thought about a car? No, but somebody did. You probably didn't imagine this, right? It's got wheels, it's got a body, it's got a guy who's super cool, and like, I don't know if this is staged or what. He's just sad that he's got this teeny little thing. Or this, it has wheels and it goes places, and I have no idea why they're doing this to themselves. This looks sad. But you probably didn't think about this as a car. Because why would you? It doesn't have wheels, it doesn't have a body. So it does have a body, yes. Not the body of, that's true. It's not a ghost. And it's a spotted zebra. So it's a craft of communicating something visual. It's a visual language. So we have a language that we use all day that's attached to something in our mind. So what's visual language? It's an interpretation of what you see into meaning. So all these things come into visual language. Your lines, your shapes, your colors, your proportions, your scales. If you're a designer, and there are quite a few in this room, they can go all night on why your spacing and things need to be certain ways. Again, I am not a designer. You probably figured that out at this point. But I've been spending 10 years looking at emails and trying to understand what really makes a good email and what are the similarities and white space and font choices and what are they trying to portray when they're sending that into your inbox. So you look at the faces. The same face, just a different expression, and each expression makes you feel something. Makes you feel sad, it makes you feel happy, makes you feel confused, makes you feel like there's probably a really bad smell in this room. And typography can do that. So here's a playful, whimsical type of typography. When you look at this, you would imagine that same kind of feeling is happy or jovial. When you looked at something like this is where you get a strong feeling or powerful, exciting, it's thick, it's kind of in your face. Something like this is more technical or intriguing. Something like this is more elegant or classic. When you go to graphics and illustrations, again, adding some illustrations and things can make it a little bit more friendly and nostalgic. Or this really creepy eye, it's like Lord of the Rings style, fearful, brazen, bold. I love Dorsia. They went under. I used to work in travel. I thought this was one of the most well-designed brands and apps ever. But this is approachable and accessible. And then the colors people use. What does this make you feel like? Yeah, like a horror film, right? You add that boldness of the text with this color, you feel something different than if this was some light pastel and like a cursive, right? And even the same words. It's done something differently. Blues and yellows with contrast really bright, give you a bouncy, awake feeling. And something really dark can feel refined or luxurious or polished. So we've gone through just some of the elements, but you can see how you kind of put these together, and this is what makes a design feel. It brings in that visual communication. All right, so this is where okay, let's go through all of the trends. All right, so number one, this is a raw and unfiltered view, and I'm not talking about Hulk Hogan, WWE, SmackDown style. What I mean is more of an unfiltered photographic view. For the last 20 years, everyone's using Instagram filters, and there's been this contrast shift where people want to just get this rawness, where they know that AI probably didn't create this image, or this image, which is overexposure of the hand, or this image, which from Patagonia seems a little strange. It's not like a nice, beautiful set and propped up, and they've got like twigs just perfectly placed next to it. It's just someone just threw their shit in the back of a truck and took a picture. And maybe they said this, I was like, hey, I need a picture of Patagonia's duffel bag, and then was like, let me go through and see if I've got something in my scroll, right? But still, it works. And works with their better built bags. All the bags back there, but the Patagonia is the one that sticks out. And you can tell in the background, it's awesome. So this is just one example of many where they're kind of showing this rawness, overexposure, not people wearing less makeup, different kind of angles that you probably wouldn't see. Coming back into this, there's like a black and white photo in the bottom right corner, if you can view that. It's just in the moment. It's almost like capture with if you had a Kodak camera in the 1990s, if any of you are old enough like me, where you snap and shoot, and you had fun doing it, and then you just see how it turns out. With number one, and why is it catching on? I feel like there's non-AI, there's some nostalgia to it, and it's been very different than how people have perceived brands in the past. All right, number two, extra chunky. Super chunk. Anyone know what Super Chunk is? Nickelodeon, they had a marathon of back-to-backs in 1997 to 1999, and every Saturday morning, this is what my brother and I did because we hated chores and we were lazy. But this is just, there's really no visual. It's just, we're just gonna be chunky. We're just gonna throw this at you. They know how to party, and they're telling you in this visual element. You feel like, okay, that's bold. That's a one way to doing it. Or Final Hours by Danner. Here's one. It's a little bit different, but they also have this authentic kind of image in the bottom left, and they have this big old text up top, and it really just draws you in. Again, here are some ideas of other people that are using it and how they're using it. And why it's catching on is when an image tells 1,000 words and you feel something, but when you want to directly give somebody what they need to know from this thing, it's pretty easy to just be a big fat ass text saying, get this now, buy this, here's what's going on. All right, next one, deep and dark. Sorry that the projector's got this. It looks black, but it's actually like this nice dark maroon. And you have this nice white text. We saw some Zeus Jones in Melanie's presentation this morning. And then the sill, big fan of theirs. This is a dark green, if you can't tell from this one. Really showcasing how it's matching that brand of bringing in some of those botanic elements. But they could have done a light green, but they chose to do dark green, which I love. And this is just kind of taking on a whole new life these days. So you'll still see the pastels out there. There are people just still catching up. It's okay. Come to the dark side, as they say. And this top on the left one, again, this doesn't show really well on the projector, but this is a dark brown. There are only 2 emails on the whole website out of 15,000 that have a dark brown background. And I was like, that's weird that only 2, but it really works for this one. And like UPS doesn't even use a dark brown. Dark mode, that's why I think that it's working. Again, pastel use has just been overdone. And I think just the way that dark mode has become more of a normal thing that people have on their laptops and their phones, that just translates pretty well to just keep it dark. All right, next trend we have is color blocking. We're not like blocking color out. It's not everyone black and white style. What we're doing is we're creating blocks of color. And we're essentially cueing your eye on where to look. And this itself is a masterpiece because it uses a lot of visual elements like upside down pyramid. You have your H2s, which are really bold, and then you have short text that kind of is centered. But not too long because you don't want to censor too much of your text if it's long, and then you move on to the next one, which really shows that there's a difference between these two things you're talking about. But you don't have to do this. You can just go from one idea to another idea. So this is a puzzle company. They said next up, and they have more examples below, and then they go to a different color when they have more examples below, and they go to a different color when they have more examples below. And it's just a way to say, oh, you finished with this idea. We're moving on to a next idea. Hopefully they'll click through. Or with PayPal, they just use the block with their header area. Pretty simple, and then they drew you in with using the same kind of colors with their iconography down below. So again, here are some examples of brands that are doing it pretty well. Some of these are really kind of pixelated, just to give you an idea of what's going on and how they're doing it. And the reason I think this is a big trend is because we have a lot of no-code builders these days, and the ability to now create content blocks is way simpler than it used to be, and setting background colors as well, or even creating divs within, sorry, I'm going a little nerdy, but you create divs and then creating background colors of those divs. And so I feel like this is just a progression of how technology has moved and is making it easier to do this now. Some people call this nostalgia. I lived in these days where you're like, doo-doo. I do not want to go back to those days, but maybe someone who didn't grow up in those days was like, that could have been cool. I could have sat on the computer and waited 21 minutes for one page to load. And I could have IM'd my friends on AIM. It would have been great. So the Seinfeld route. But this is coming back. Like there's like this idea of old technology is just cool again. My kids want a iPod, like the original scrolly wheel iPod. My sister-in-law is only vinyl. I mean, because it's better, right? Who's in this room is a vinyl? Yeah, okay. We have this discussion all the time. It's just like there's like this nostalgia for holding something physical, and because everything around us is just ephemeral, right? It's just in the ether. So having this connection is really, really nice. So that's one way they did that. Vacation, I love this. It's like this is like a B2B. Like who's in their B2B world is gonna be like, you know what's gonna be great? We're gonna send out a picture from 1980, and people are gonna buy just some great stuff from us. But actually, it works really well. It's like in the same font that you'd see things from like old magazines and stuff I would see in my dad's office. He's probably talking to somebody that isn't his wife. Or there's this. Okay, who built a site like this? Yeah? Yes. If you didn't live in this world, I am so sorry because it was so much fun. And I bet, we saw a music bed example earlier, but I hope they had so much fun building this. They're like, you remember what we used to do? Like, colors don't matter anymore. We'll put GIFs of babies with like, all right, do you remember the dancing baby? It was so like uncanny valley that everyone was like, oh no. But the background, I love this so much. So again, nostalgia doesn't have to be like buttoned up. Nostalgia can be what your childhood looked like. I remember building sites like this with my friends. It was super fun, and it was only like 5 people that visited it. And then we'd like go to Winamp, and we'd like redo our skins and stuff. Anyone else I'm talking about? Yeah, okay, sweet. Oh, I love you so much. These are my people. These are my people. If this hurts your eyes, it probably should. Okay, but you have fun. You have fun at this. And they kind of warned you. I got this whole series here, and they kind of warned you that something was coming, and they had like a triangle and things are coming, and it was great. But you can also use like nostalgia with the colors of like a Polaroid, or you have your ASCII art over here. You got your just typewriter set, kind of text. You got your old TVs, and then this one's super fun. It looks like a kind of an old style website that you see from like the late 90s, early 2000s. And because the 90s are cool. If you're a 90s baby or a 90s kid, that's a lot of the people that are making emails and being in like the head of design these days are in the 90s. And the 80s was not cool. 80s was just like hair everywhere. All right, so next one are ticker GIFs. You know what ticker is? You spend time watching MSNBC all day long, or CNN, and you're like, this is so much fun. I'm an adult now. You're a trader. But the one I'm talking about is really these. And right when you open your inbox, right when you actually in the email, you're going to see Zanjo, Los Angeles, Zanjo. It's really just kind of keep your eye right on the top or in the center, and then you move down, you see all the other things. But this is really being brought into a lot of e-commerce brands. Not a lot of, this is, Zanjo's an agency, but a lot of e-commerce are doing this with like last call, or sale ends tomorrow, and that's just, so we'll see some of that one here. Judy again is preparation and news and tips and all things preparation. And so this one's a little long, but you get the gist. And then Teep here is coming soon. And it's just a little bit more fun. Keep that GIF in there. Again, this is similar to why we saw color blocks. There's just a lot more technology to make a GIF pretty easily. And then we have some honorable mentions for trends. And again, these are, I would say we are seeing them probably come up in the last couple months. So I wouldn't go home and tell your boss like, hey, these are gonna come up, we should do this, but this is something we're seeing. Weird fonts. I call them weird, but that's just because I don't have a word that conveys what all these fonts do, but it's not a typical font. There might be like this Black Friday, and it says early. I can make this one, that word out. And I have no idea if that's even a word. Access, maybe. And then there's a blob. I don't know, but it's fun, okay? And then we have Kerwin's Frost. We've got House Party. They're bubbly, they're fun. This is something that you're not going to get in a font file, maybe. That's more hand-drawn. I guess probably a little harder for AI to create these. And so maybe that's what these brands are reaching for, is just a little bit of originality. Hand models, these are fun. There was a study that showed, I don't know if you read IREA, he's a guy who goes and finds all these case studies from all these different universities. But there's a case study and research that found that if your hand model is holding something in their right hand, it's more approachable. I don't know why, but now you have that information. So now you can take it back to your boss. The wave is coming back. It was kind of really strong in 2019 and then again in 2021, and now it's coming back really, really strong. And then showing people that you're a sustainable brand. This is always a good thing. We talked about B Corps earlier. Just being part of the world and showing that you care. Please do that. That's just nice. We've been tracking all the trends, so we know exactly which categories people are looking at and how what they're saving in their collections on a very high level. I don't go into your single collection and say this is what she's looking at, but essentially this tells you our newsletter's ticking up, our industry's ticking up, and so we'll highlight that throughout the year if you're on our newsletter. But back to what I said about the cars. You probably didn't imagine this car, which hopefully you didn't drive in here, because I don't know how you got here in that. It's all duct taped together. But you don't want to take these trends and just create, okay, we're gonna go hand model meets nostalgia, meets boldness. You end up with something weird like that, or something like this, and it just doesn't make sense. So, but what's more important, I just want you guys to be really good.